Hi, what's going on guys? It's Almond. Welcome back to another Wizard101 video. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the max life damage build. This is probably like one of the last ones I'll probably do, other than like the ice one I think that's left at the time I'm recording this. So you guys should see the ice build either today or tomorrow, one of these days. But this time around we're going over the max damage and then the max pierce that you can currently have. Of course, the pierce is a little bit varied because, you know, hey, you're gonna have a pierce pet maybe, I don't know, it just really comes down to personal preference. But usually I'm just going to show you guys the max damage build and then kind of roughly what you guys can switch out here and there. So if you do enjoy this type of content, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that type of stuff. And yeah, eventually I will do like an outgoing build for like advanced combat, because there are some fights that you can actually use like Pigsy and like regenerate whenever you get the spellements, which I don't have the spellements for at the moment. So like if we go to my life and we look at, I think it's all the way at the end, yeah, regenerate, I haven't done Beast Moon, so I'm just gonna kind of wait on this, like as much as I need this for advanced combat, because there are some challenge mode and rematch fights that this is very useful for. But I don't know if I'm gonna do Beastman for it, just because it's, I don't know, there's Beastman's here and there, it's like a hit or miss for me. But we'll talk about that in another separate video. But first, let's look at the life damage build. Of course, we have it as different sets, so this is the whole damage setup that I usually rock. But we got the Aeon hat. Pins don't really matter. There's not really a replacement for the Aeon hat. It's just you have it, you have it. Of course, if you don't have it, I just wait for the Nightmare dungeon. We don't know what it's gonna look like, how difficult it is, or anything like that. So it's kind of tough to just say right now, like, oh, you know, you definitely should get it or something like that. But you guys should have Aeon at this point. I mean, it's been a year, right? Just expectations at this point. The robe, nullity, and then I know some players complain that they don't have nullity because they don't want to do the dragon spire raid and they don't want to upgrade it. So your second best option is going to be Nightmare. It's a little bit less damage but the same pierce, but for this purpose of the build, we're going for the damage route, so that's why you want nullity. But if you don't have nullity, not a big issue, just use Nightmare and call it a day. I mean, you get more resist, you get more HP, and you same amount of pierce on life, so there's that. But you lose a little bit of accuracy, but not a big deal though. It's really not, because accuracy on life doesn't really mean much, because the fact that like most of your spells require like 15 or 10, so like you don't need too much accuracy on a life if you're being like realistic. For like shads too, you know, like 15, so 15 is like the sweet spot for like a life character. The boots, Aeon, really nothing you can switch out for your boots. It's just kind of like your stand. There's not really anything else that I would recommend per se, but yeah, just use Aeon. Wand, you have a little bit more freedom. You can use Aeon, you can use Shabalba wand if you have that. I think it's somewhere on my character. If you don't have either, then you can even use Merciless wand. I know some players are telling me Merciless wands are just the same exact thing, just everything else is decreased, but the damage and pierce is still the same. But I think honestly best bet is just use Aeon wand. If you don't have Aeon, or if you don't want to use Aeon because the pip conserve, you can use the shadow rating one for Shabalba. And then worst comes to worst, if you don't have either of those, then literally just go use Merciless wand. There's nothing bad about that, but I just prefer the Aeon one. That's just my thing. So there's that. The theme, we got the Reaver theme. I don't have my sockets on for my tiers yet, just because they're on my other characters. Kind of been like moving some stuff around, so there's that. So there's like things just going all over the place. But Reaver is like your best bet. You know, if we're comparing it to Aeon, like you guys can see, it's 21 damage, while I think Reaver gives 23, so 2 extra damage, and then a little bit more block, and then more HP. So just Reaver is just better in that regard. And plus you can sock it on HP, which is kind of nice. I mean, with this build, without even having like min-max stuff on the tiers, I have literally 14k on a life. And I have 247 damage, which is like crazy to think about. So yeah, Reaver is your best bet. Amulet is Reaver as well. The only thing is with the damage sockets is that life only gets 9 damage sockets along with ice. I think ice and life both have like the low end. So there's that. So they're at that 9% mark. But it's okay. I mean, it works. There's really not that much of another option. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could you know, switch your amulet. I know some players are saying you can use Hun Hao, but the thing is with Hun Hao, the only reason I use the Reavers compared to the Hun Hao variants is due to the fact that this gives like a blade for your school. The Hun Hao variants give you like a star blade and stuff like that, or like whatever for your school. So it costs a pip, and solo fights, it's just better to save up pips and just keep using stackability stuff. So that's why I just use this. It's just more of a preferable option and requires less time and everything like that. So there is that. So Reaver is the best bet in my opinion. You can use Hun Hao, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, Reaver is better because the circle socket. I would say use Dark more, but like no, it's just really not worth it. It's really not, because you can socket on more damage and pierce on these things. So there's that. But yeah, so damage sockets as well with the accuracy. And then ring, you already know Reaver straight up, just basically there. If we go over to Aeon, you guys can see the difference. It's very minuscule, right? It's very minuscule. Like it's, even though it's 15 damage, I'm getting more health, more health and more crit. So that's the only reason I'm doing that. But it's the same damage. Yeah, Life and Ice kind of got shafted on their stuff, so yeah, it feels bad, but it's okay. And then pet all damage with the set bonus, of course, but this time we have the Avenger, or the Avenger set. So we got the mount as well to match that, and then the deck, a damage socket with the Starblade. So there's that. And plus, I'm already getting a Starblade from here. If I had the Amulet of Hun Hao, I'll just get 2 Starblades, I'm pretty sure, and that's not really worth my time. So that's why I just prefer Reaver as a whole. So overall, this is like the set. If we put it on all the way, but yeah, 247 damage, pretty decent resist, accuracy pretty good, but your pierce is in shambles, it's in 22. So that's the thing with this setup. Of course, like I say in my other videos, always recommend to swap some stuff around in your personal preference. We can quickly look at the pierce build as well. This one, you have 202 damage with 52 pierce, which honestly is a little bit better, especially on a life. I prefer rocking this setup over the damage setup, due to the fact that even though you get more damage on a life, they only have 9% sockets, so it's not as like, I mean, it's there, it's not like crazy beneficial. Of course, for dual schooling, it's good. If you're doing life into fire, that's very good. So there's that. But just straight up life, 52 pierce I think would be a better to play. But essentially it's the same setup, you know, Aeon, Nullity, and if you don't have Nullity, like I always say, Nightmare, Aeon, and then the wand is still the same. But I just have Pierce sockets instead. So instead of using the Reaver for the damage sockets, I'm using Pierce. Same thing on these, and same thing on these. And the pet still remains the same. I mean, of course, you can take off damage and put on Pierce too. There's not a bad option there. But yeah, I just have Pierce all the way around. It's just, yeah, that's just the whole point of the setup. But like, I would probably take off one of these if I'm gonna be honest. I wouldn't mind losing 6 Pierce for 9 damage. This route's a 211 with 46 Pierce. I think that's like an okay sweet spot, right? Yeah, it just really comes down to personal preference. I know people are gonna argue Pierce over damage, but it really just comes down to personal preference, I'd say. And then same thing with the accuracy socket. Like, you don't have to socket on accuracy on here, on the amulet. You can socket on an item card because you really don't need this accuracy socket. Like, if I take this off, I still have 16 accuracy, which is perfect for my spells. Like, that's enough for Forest Lord, that's enough for my shads. Yeah, you only really need 15 accuracy on a life, so you have a little bit more leeway, and you can just swap that out and put whatever you want. So if you want to put on an item card like Epic, that's a good opportunity to. What players are also suggesting that where, like, if you had to get the Hun Hao amulet and then for the triangle socket you can socket on another life blade, so you can get 2 star blades and a life blade. That's something that's optional. It really just comes down to like little niche builds, but I think a lot of the setups are going to be basically the same, except for like 1 or 2 schools. But that's basically the entire setup. So hopefully you guys enjoyed me going over both the builds, damage or pierce. But like I said, it's personal preference at the end of the day. If you want to switch out your amulet to a Hun Hao amulet, you can do that. If you don't want to rock Nullity Robe, you can rock Nightmare. And then same thing with the decks. There's the Shababa decks that you can run. I think the Hun Hao decks as well. And I know they give item cards, so that's something you could run too. But like I said, choose what you guys want. It's a life. So that's the best way to put it. But that is it. And be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all type of stuff. There should be the last video coming out tomorrow, maybe. I just haven't figured out when I'm going to schedule it. But yeah, that video will eventually come out, and that will be all the builds till Nightmare Dungeon, or till I decide like, hey, maybe I want to update it because maybe the Hunhow gear is actually a little bit better. But it's just personal preference. I don't really like the Hunhow gear that much, and the item cards are not that crazy either. So we'll look into it later down the line whenever the Nightmare gear does come out, and we'll adjust some setups then. So that's about it. And yeah, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all type of stuff, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys.